Contrary to most of this week's messages, there are some instances of using information in your writing that actually don't require citation. The first one is instances of common knowledge. When your argument refers to facts or concepts that are widely known or that an educated reader, like your professor, could reasonably know, you're not required to cite source material. In general, information that no single person is really responsible for discovering is considered common knowledge. Because you're writing into a graduate academic context here at Fuller, the boundaries around common knowledge are a little bit wider or broader when it comes to theology, intercultural studies, and psychology. However, there is no definitive boundary about what is considered common knowledge or what is not considered common knowledge. So the onus is on you as a writer to judge whether a piece of information qualifies as common knowledge. Some examples of the kinds of things I'm talking about here are stuff like Fuller Theological Seminary is located in Pasadena, California, which is in the Northern Hemisphere. You don't really need to cite Fuller's website for this information or refer to Google Maps or an encyclopedia or something like that. Another example, the Synoptic Gospels are Matthew, Mark, and Luke. This is just a fact that we know in the realm of biblical studies. And lastly, another example, Christianity began to form as a religion in the 1st century of the Common Era. So note that while details of historical events or the existence of historical events are considered common knowledge, historical documents are not, and neither are interpretations of historical events. So another questionable area around citation has to do with interpretive ideas. Every time your argument turns from mentioning facts to using ideas, whether you're explaining an idea or applying one, be aware that you're likely getting into content that does require citation. The original work of an individual or several authors working together or an identifiable organization might include research, analysis, or theory. When these concepts or pieces of information appear in your work, they deserve and require citation in order to document those original sources. However, there are some exceptions to this principle where citation is not required. And here I'm quoting from a writing guide from Harvard College. Some interpretations or opinions rather than facts have entered the realm of common knowledge and need not be cited. If you were to introduce the claim that culture provides a means by which humans adapt to their environments, you would not need to cite a source for this claim since it is almost universally held by anthropologists. But if you were unsure that this was the consensus view among anthropologists, you would best be served simply to cite the source. On the whole, opinions or interpretations do not enter the realm of common knowledge as easily as historical or scientific facts, end quote. So that's the deal with interpretive ideas. And lastly, in general, when your argument uses your own thinking or your own research, you don't need to cite yourself. Exceptions to this are when you use your own materials that have been published elsewhere, or materials that have already been submitted to an academic class, whether it's the current class you're taking or a previous one. When you refer to your own original works of art, you want to follow standard citation styles for referring to like paintings or pieces of music, stuff like that. And lastly, when you refer to someone else's words from an original interview that you executed yourself. So the worlds of common knowledge, some interpretive ideas, and your own original stuff generally do not require citation, but keep in mind the following. While you will likely never get in trouble for oversighting, you can definitely experience negative consequences for underciting. The worst thing that can happen if you oversight, if you cite too much, is that your reader might get the impression that your paper isn't actually constituted by any of your own original thinking. But the worst that can happen if you undercite, well, it's pretty bad. So if you ever have a question about whether something requires citation, whether something is common knowledge, a generally accepted idea, or qualifies as being published, just ask. You can ask a professor, a TA, or of course the friendly folks here at the Writing